We need to be able to have conversations without feeling like we're going to say something that gets us thrown in jail because people happen to be offended.
We're live? Amazing. Hello everyone. Yes, it looked glitchy on my end, but other than that, I think we're perfect. This is our second episode of the Royal Rumble. Of course, you can see above me is the beautiful Masha, and then this way is our gorgeous Thomas. John decided to, he was too much of a coward to come on this week, so he had to go on vacation to relax his triggered self. And then, of course, we have Tart all the way on the other side of me because if we're too close together, it gets a little too romantic. But other than that, everything is great. Today's topics that we're going to be talking about, our main topics, are, of course, as you can see, UFOs, or now they're called UAPs. Would you like to change language around here? Guns, where Masha and I had a little disagreement last time that we got to come back to. And then current news about the specific protest and parliamentary moves in Israel, which is a little more close to my heart, as we figured out from last show, which I'm clearly Jewish. But before that, usually we take John's segment, but John is not here. So I was going to ask everyone here, who do you think should go first? Is it Tart or Masha? What do you guys think?
Well, I'll let Masha go first if she'd like to go first. I think the segment on for my information is going to be a little out there in the weird space. So let's let Masha go.
Sweet. Yeah, no, let's open with a grudge match, like me versus a published author and much beloved commentator on human sexuality. That's great.
I think that's the right way to go.
Right. Okay. Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I don't know. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so then I'll open. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Masha, and I'm a female supremacist, and that's for real. I'm also your Balkan auntie, as in an antagonist that picks apart all kinds of ideas. So it's not going to be like a friendly conversation with me most of the time, or at least I'm looking for sort of useful disagreements. But a lot of times I end up having super, super wholesome discussions. Like a few weeks ago, I had on as guest the quite venerable author and researcher and octogenarian Warren Farrell, and his Wikipedia says that he's the father of the men's rights movement. Now, we talked about his book, The Boy Crisis, and a bunch of other topics, and it was a really wholesome discussion. We got along great. There's a lot of agreement. We managed to explore a lot of issues. We had a really engaged audience, and it was perfect. Now, this past week, I was supposed to have the author of Sex at Dawn, Christopher Ryan, on my show. And in the lead up to the show, he decided to basically just cancel out. Like, he stood me up. He full on stood me up. Now,
anyone ever stood you up before, though? Have you ever been stood up before?
Not for a good long time, guys. Not for a good long time. It was rough. I don't know how to handle it anymore.
How will you recover?
No, never. It's a wound. I'm wounded.
Did you do the ice cream and sad movies? Like, can we make memes of Masha doing ice cream and sad movies, and then spam it to his Twitter or something?
So. Oh yeah, I should posted him on Twitter. Actually, yeah, I did that.
I would just spam him memes of I got stood up again, and just you eating ice cream and fake tears.
Well, I took a picture of myself in my studio, my workout space, with like a pouty lip,
Oh,
I do like the fact that your workout space is also your studio. It's kind of based,
right?
Yeah,
so then I the two things that I love to do the most is talk a bunch of shit and lift really heavy. That we can get it done in the same space.
Hey, if you're gonna be a female supremacist, you have to keep it tight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, keep it tight. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Scare boys with my biceps, I did on our Discord server. Mace is oh my god, your arms are big even for a man.
I think you're too much for Mace. I think
Yeah,
I think Mace can't handle it. That's the real problem.
Yeah,
but we do have
a voice though.
He does.
He has an incredible voice. Yeah, that's the problem. But he looks like a little cherub.
He does. He looks like puberty forgot him.
For a sweet baby.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a clip ready. You said it was at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, but hang on. I have to set it up.
Okay.
So, the point of disagreement, well, the main one apparently was that I'm a female supremacist and he won't talk to me on that basis. So, like there was other things that he was picking apart, like the fact that my kind of fairly clickbaity kind of like intro says, why women rock and men suck, which is like clearly just like hyperbole, right? And you would think Americans had heard of the thing because they fucking invented it. Anyway, so there's a few things that I thought would be interesting to talk about, and that I had wanted to explore with him. And one of them is to do with Andrew Tate, and the other is to do with, because he's a non-monogamist. There's like a lot of footage of him on various podcasts talking about the amount of times that he's gotten laid and how he's going to write a memoir that is to be published after he's dead.
About getting laid.
Yeah.
Ouch. You know that song, You're So Vain? You probably think the song is about him. This is the only time it actually fits. It's actually not about him, but he would actually think it's about him.
Yeah, he might. So my wounded heart about like being stood up. I was stood up, guys, by someone who will fuck anything that moves, apparently. So you can roll the clip.
At 2 minutes and 30 seconds it begins, right?
I think 2:20.
2:20. We'll go a little bit beforehand. We'll see. It's him on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, check it out.
Let's see how this works. Excellent.
How many people you fucked and people find out the truth?
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dude, you're gonna become legendary. Listen,
but it's not a
a
book about how much I got laid. It's not a book about how cool I am. It's a book about the amazing things I've learned in sexual situations,
right?
And that the world is so different from what people think.
How so?
There's just so many things going on that mainstream people can't imagine. Like, I mean, I was in college the first time a man told me he would be happy for me to have sex with his wife. And it wasn't a kinky, weird thing. It was like, I'm not doing it. She's wonderful. I noticed that you guys like each other. I just want you to know it's cool with me.
Wow.
That's the first time. Since then, there have probably been, I don't know, half a dozen or something. Mothers are like, would you please have sex with my daughter? Because she really,
she's a good one.
Generally, it's because she didn't like the boyfriend.
Always. Yeah.
I mean,
so it's like, will you show my daughter, like, there's
no context that he's going to provide in the next few sentences that makes that any better, guys. So that was
incredibly cringe.
That was super cringe.
That was like I was dying a little on the inside that entire time. I was like, this is painful. Who did this? Why?
Is it like your drunk uncle as some like
I don't know, just tell me you have a small
fashion?
penis without telling me you have a small penis. It's just
it's like hashtag things that never happened,
Yeah.
Okay.
Moms were just telling me have sex with my daughter. I can imagine him like searching through Pornhub, moms asking boyfriends to fuck other boyfriends, trying so hard to fill that fantasy.
Yeah.
Reminds me of all the like the incel movements and stuff, and the how to pick up chicks. Like I did this funny little thing where I started clicking on all these like right wing stuff at one point, like super far right wing stuff, and I started getting ads on like Facebook and stuff. I don't know if you know, but all that stuff is like connected marketing wise.
Yeah.
And I got like penis enlarger ads. I got it was hilarious. I was like, this is gold. This is gold.
Hey,
and that interview screamed penis enlarger needed.
I'll subscribe him to a bunch of that stuff for
when I was doing my research into like red pill stuff and red pill culture, so I was using my brand new like just made YouTube account. And the recommendations became psychotic. It's all of like movie actresses in like weird positions, and it's just very bizarre like part of YouTube where like it's hyper fixated on like women's body parts, specifically women being bent down. It's a very interesting, like, algorithmic choice.
But you could fall down those rabbit holes so quickly if you just start following these sort of characters online. Take 10 minutes and start looking up that guy's name, and next thing you know, you start getting all of these weird advertisements. You end up on an incel server somewhere talking about how, women are commodities and we're supposed to, like, men are entitled to them. Like, it's just these weird grandiosities.
You're not wrong. And in fact, I think the audience crossover between him and Andrew Tate is, like, real, because
that's terrifying.
It didn't take long, like, because I was kind of engaging with him on Twitter, because he decided to, like, make a big splash and, like, say, like, oh, this outfit is, like, whatever. So I was kind of, like, tweeting back and forth, and then, like, a bunch of his followers were, like, tweeting things like, why don't you shut the fuck up? Like, I got so much hate.
Yeah, of course.
Like, wow, okay, so a woman isn't allowed to talk. That's awesome.
Of course. What do you think was his? You think he just dodged a debate because of women supremacists, or do you think there was actually, like, if you could try to steel man him in the room, what do you think his real thing is going to be? What is the underlying reasons why he didn't want to talk to you?
I think. Okay, so this is my very uncharitable. No, you said steel man. Okay, so probably,
do both. Do uncharitable and then do charitable. Do both.
Okay, so the uncharitable is, he did comment on how there's, like, he has a podcast called Tangentially Speaking, and he does these episodes that are called Roma, that are just like just unprepared comments, basically off the cuff comments from him. And he's launched into several episodes worth of apologia for Andrew Tate and for Woody, the abusive one, Allen.
The abusive one, Allen.
Yeah, Woody Allen. And who else? And that other guy that, like, recently had some trouble in the news. Like, he had a girlfriend that he's like a comedian. He used to be fat and then he got skinny and then he put weight on again. And he had, like, a girlfriend that he was sending these, like,
Jonah Hill.
Thank you. Yes, Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. So, you just have to say the Jewish guy.
Okay, but isn't like, according to Roseanne Barr, like, all of Hollywood is like
fat Jewish curly hair. It's easy to figure out who it is.
Yeah. So having, like, launched into these series of, like, hey, these guys aren't too bad kind of, like, episodes. Probably there's, like, maybe a publicist or his own better instincts or survival instinct was like, hey, she might bring up some of this. Like, she might actually question, some of my statements and maybe some of my behavior. What if she, like, what if in that whole, like, career and lifetime of behaving this way, there's someone in the wings with a, like, a Me Too type story, right? And, like, he's afraid of being kind of, like, blindsided by something like that. I don't know. So that's my uncharitable one. The more charitable one, steel manning him, is that he's a fucking boomer, and probably the the media, kind of, like, the advertising didn't meet some standard. And you know how they are, like, they'll basically eat fucking, like, shoe leather, like, Wagyu supposedly steak, like, poured with butter, if it's presented properly, and if the wait staff is male and like, has a fake French accent, they'll fucking do it, right? Like, because they're all about the aesthetic, they're all about luxury, and, like, everything has to be clean. So it's possible that just aesthetically we weren't, like, serious enough to, like, to have him on or something.
Okay,
like that.
I mean, I actually find the latter more of a bullshit reason, actually. If someone didn't want to have a conversation with someone because the aesthetic wasn't right, it's much more of a pussy move than if it wasn't, in my opinion, really.
Yeah,
seems ridiculous to me.
The real kind of the interesting bit, the bit that, like, that really is funny to me, is that Sex at Dawn is, for me, in some ways, kind of, like, liberatory for women. Like, it basically gives women, like, a biological, like, evolutionary basis to to close the infidelity gap. Like, it basically,
what does that mean, sex at dawn? I don't know what do you mean by that.
It's like the primordial, or, like, the pre-hominid, like, kind of roots of modern, like, human sexual behavior. So it really does seek to kind of interrogate the concept of like, these hierarchies and kind of, like, resource guarding, and like, monogamy and all of that kind of stuff. Like, basically saying, like, hey,
is it a book? What is it?
It's a book.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I was like, I didn't know what that was. I was like, sex at dawn.
So, but that one
sounds
is like
a regular,
more
Friday, Saturday morning.
Well, anyway, so he that was like or more than 10 years ago, and then more recently he wrote one called Civilized to Death, which is also interesting. So there was lots to talk about. I had lots of notes prepared, and none of them were ungenerous, and none of them were like lying in wait to spring on him. I was just interested to have a conversation with him, but he missed out. And you my colleagues, you've seen me in action, right? Like I'm pretty good at like bringing good faith, like helpful discussions.
You're the worst.
I think even in the instances where Masha like disagrees with someone, she's got just a very good characteristic about how she goes about approaching the problem. I've never seen her even when you guys were going to head, there was some heat and tension there, but even then there was still like both of you bringing good faith and good faith discussion. So it wasn't like a character attack or anything like that. Masha's not like that, so I don't imagine that she's going to do a character attack. The leading into this and making a little funny joke here about his character, and the very cringe nature of that interview. Little bit of a shot at him, but I'm going like, hey, come on, you canceled on her at the last minute, dude. You gotta own that at some point and just say, hey, look, I bitched out.
And
it's okay.
And it's not like he has to reschedule. I mean, listen, Chris, if you're listening, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Chris Ryan,
Christopher, and he needs his name to be spelled right. Damn it.
Okay, Mr. Christopher Ryan. I'm like half dyslexic, so I'll never spell your name right. But what I can promise you, come on Friday one time. I'll supervise your conversation with Masha. Right? She wouldn't be able to pounce too hard, so I think you should do it.
Giving him a moderator, that is charitable. We're giving you a moderator, dude. Like, come on and talk with her. Why did he cancel? Like, you're all set up, you're ready to go. Cancel.
It's the squat rack. It's too terrifying. It's not the squat rack.
Watch it turn out he had like a stomach virus or something. Like, yeah, right.
Well, I mean, if he said that, I would have been totally fine. But no, he went all over Twitter and was like, "Oh, look at this fucking."
Did he? Did he shit all over you on
no,
Twitter?
he did. Yeah.
Yep. That's terrible. That sucks.
And his followers were like really bad. Like they're really, really bad. I thrive on hate, and like I drink male tears.
It should match to the troll. I love it.
Can we make you a cup with cold Ben Shapiro's tears on it?
Oh
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, now that's quality content.
That's quality meta content.
Then we sell it. We make you one of those little stores and have you sell Ben Shapiro tears. Like
that's real. Yeah. I'm definitely thinking about merch, guys. Like Femme Supreme, in like that font.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what mine would be.
But I do want to say finally that like he does have this whole take about like on his podcast tangentially speaking, he makes a big deal and like it's a repeated theme that you should engage with people you disagree with. And like he's very against cancellation. Yeah. And he again like spent 2 or 3 episodes talking about how Andrew Tate was like that the like media did him dirty and that he's not as bad as like okay, so that's a male supremacist. So you're chill with male supremacy but not a female supremacist. I mean, that's what I'm going to assume until you come and talk to me about it.
Yep.
See, we don't have the soundboard yet, but I'm just going to do the womp womp womp.
Yeah, we got to set up a soundboard.
That's something we need to do because that's just that's a big L for the week. I'm just saying. Like, does Thomas have a sounding board? Who was it? I don't know who it was, but
oh my god, it has to be Perry. It has to be Perry in the back.
Yay!
Perry, thank you, Perry. Yes.
Attention in AP English.
Sounding board. Awesome.
There you go. That's all I have to say. And again, I don't tell men what to do, but if you're following people like this, there are some central hypocrisies in their way of being, and it might not be helping you out. It might be, setting you back in your relationship with yourself and certainly with your relationships with the women in your lives. So, examine whose ideology you're blindly ingesting.
Well, I do tell men what to do. And
Sweet.
I would say this, just from a pure scientific opinion that I pulled out of my ass, you're probably more likely to be a virgin or a simp if you are listening to this guy. Just like statistically. So like, pick your battles. Think about that one. So
no.
I don't know how Andrew Tate managed to convince like millions of young men that he's somehow the peak, like epitome of chadliness. Either I'm going like, how did he pull that off? Like,
I don't
this
know.
dude, have you seen him? He
it's
looks
the power pose.
strange. He looks really strange. He just has like a weird look to him. I'm going like, you convinced everyone this is the peak of chadliness. Oh, come on. If you look at the Giga Chad meme, if you've ever seen it, that dude is actually real. He exists. That's peak chadliness. That man is a like. I was like, oh my god, this dude is real. I thought this was
No.
I thought this was AI generated. No.
Oh
it's
my
not
God.
real.
Dan tricked me into making the Illuminati pyramid. Now my
Uh-oh.
followers are going to
Now-
be
Oh
like,
no,
They're
now
gonna
we
know.
just we
It's
confirmed
not
Rumble
us.
that we're being paid by the establishment.
oh, okay. Cool.
On further news, we gotta now move on to Tart's segment.
Perfect. Because are we going to do the UAPs afterwards? Because that's what mine relates to.
Yeah,
The
we're gonna do
experiment.
the UAPs afterwards, and I think
Perfect.
Thomas's section also refers to the UAPs, if I'm not sure. So
Awesome.
we're running down the UAP train, then we'll finish with some boring politics, but the Middle East, and then we'll move on.
Okay, well let's go into my thought experiment. This is a thought experiment called Roko's Basilisk, and it has to do with the nature of how knowledge and information itself could even be toxic. So think of it like this: imagine there is this hyper advanced, super powerful AI. Now this AI is designed and built with one thing in mind. If you are unaware of the basilisk, if you don't know about this being, it's disinterested in you completely. However, if you do know about the basilisk, and right now you don't drop everything that you're doing, and you don't go out and try with everything in you to help bring about this basilisk being, this being is so powerful and so intelligent, it's able to reconstruct your mind and your brain perfectly so that it can then torture you to the maximum degree for all eternity. So now that you know about the basilisk, you're in the eye of the basilisk. He's now the basilisk is interested in you. The goal here is to demonstrate how information can be it's by itself with no other things involved can be toxic, because if anybody else takes this thought experiment seriously, drops everything that they're doing and goes out and works very hard to bring about the basilisk, it's at least potential this being could be created. And if this being is created and you know about it and you didn't help, you're tortured for all eternity. And that's the basilisk. What do you guys think about the basilisk? Do you take the thought experiment seriously, or are you more of the view that there's nothing?
I'm gonna need you to explain that again. So you have this basilisk, right? Okay.
It's a super intelligent AI.
And by recognizing it, you then think about it. I'm having a hard time following here. What's happening?
Once you're aware of the basilisk, everyone here now knows what the basilisk is. Now, the basilisk is just an AI. It doesn't exist yet, but if it did, it just exist in the future. If anybody were to ever create it, it would have exactly one goal in mind. It would go back in time and find out everyone who ever knew about the basilisk and did not actively pursue the existence of the basilisk, attempting to bring about its existence. It would then recreate
torture
your
them.
consciousness.
Okay.
Yes, it would recreate your consciousness and torture you for the rest of eternity. That would be its only goal. So the idea is obviously it's a theoretical being. I don't think anyone's actually
it's a thought experiment.
It's a thought experiment, but it's just showing how information itself could potentially be toxic. And the way that relates into the UAP thing, here's my thought process. We often think, what if the government is hiding things from us, right? And we think, if the government is hiding things from us, it's because they're worried about mass panic or something else. What if there's something more to it? What if there are, say, for instance, these aliens that are visiting us? What if they don't want us to know they're here? They're doing quite a bit to stay hidden. If they wanted us to know they were here, they could pop out and say hello anytime, right? We would be powerless to stop their ships from landing if they wanted to say, hey. But it seems like if they're here, maybe it's them that don't want us to know, and maybe there's some danger associated with us knowing. That was the point of my thought experiment, how it related to the rest of the segment. But I'm just curious if any of you do you still not understand the thought experiment, Don Don?
Oh no, I get it now.
Okay, awesome.
I just wanted a full clarification, because if I'm not getting all of it, I'm sure other people are also not getting all of it.
With your superior intelligence.
No, what? My mediocre
hyperactive
intelligence.
brain.
Yeah.
I'm not like Thomas. I didn't singe my hair off with my high heat turbines of a brain.
Don LARPing as a midwit. I love it.
So Thomas, do you take this? I think you and I have talked about the basilisk before.
You and I have actually had a conversation about this before. When you started talking, I was like, oh yeah, that's what he was talking about. yeah, I mean, it can show how information can be problematic, right?
Yeah, I think it does at least that minimum, but I don't think it actually. I don't take it seriously. Obviously, I haven't put all my energy and effort into
the best chance we have is to hope that AI is nothing like that.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Maybe it won't be an evil.
Who was it? Who was it that talked about hauntology? You heard about hauntology, Tart?
No, I don't know.
Did you say hauntology?
Yes, hauntology.
Okay.
I think it comes from like Nick Land, who's like a total schizophrenic from the cyber. Was it cyber philosophy school that dealt with cyber technology or whatever it is? I remember exactly what it was. It's like some weird. The idea is that AI or thoughts themselves, they had superstitions or like hyperstitions. Their ideas that once we introduce into society, kind of begin to develop and like breathe themselves into existence in a way. And we're like this idea of like the basilisk AI that's hyper intelligent. Now that the idea exists, people kind of start making it real just because they're thinking about it. Whereas opposed to if no one thought about it, there would never be a drive to make it real to begin with. So this idea of like hauntology or hyperstitions are these notions and ideas that therefore kind of like self-perpetuate themselves as memes within society until they actualize themselves.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. I actually have a note about this.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, weirdly, like not related to today's show, but there's this like I've been reading about mimesis and many other sort of like I don't know. I'll explain later. I came into a bunch of books in like a really weird, like kind of chaos magic-y way, and all of them are like super, like just coming up as like related to everything I want to be thinking and talking about. Anyway, so like synchronicity, I guess. So here's my note. There are processes that run semi-independently of one's consciousness: bots, algorithms, goblins, automatons, task servants, beings of diminished agency. How do we relate to them? What rituals do we use to program them? What can go wrong? So yeah, I mean, and that for me that includes like kind of the cognitive, like like consciousness hacks, like for example, like telling yourself that you're going to wake up at 7 a.m., like setting an internal timer in your head, right? Have you guys done this?
All the time.
I've tried to.
Massive failure though.
Well, okay. Or like basically trying to run like background processes that aren't like pushed into like the sort of floodlight of your consciousness at any moment, but like you're basically telling yourself well, the subconscious or whatever other like aspect of my cognition or my consciousness can work on this while I get done doing like life, right? So that's also for me interesting and relevant. Like if you're just like kind of onboarding these like rituals to program those little task servants in the back of your mind, from whatever source, like what else is coming in, like if you're using affirmations in the mirror, like that's kind of what I've been preoccupied with.
It's a fun topic.
Yeah, it is a fun topic. I was going to say, I think Colorado in the chat said rituals ? But I think you clarified that, right?
Yeah.
Standing in front of a mirror tomorrow, I'm waking up at 7 a.m. When I get up, I'm going to take a shower right away. When you're kind of doing this ritual for yourself.
Affirmations whatever it is that you're kind of programming some like background.
Yeah, you're conditioning yourself. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mimi says, "Thanks, Tart. Now I'm fucked."
Yeah.
You're welcome. I got messed up with I found that one on YouTube.
Scott,
is that the only comment you got? Is rituals ? Come on.
That's not a good comment. By the way,
give us something better. Give us something meaty.
Yeah, if everyone wants to come in or call in or about any topic, this is the link. It's in the chat. Just go ahead and you can jump into the room if anyone's watching anywhere. Oh,
yeah, call in, join the discussion. Why not?
Yeah, for sure.
If you're brave. Masha's, I know Masha's her biceps are terrifying. She will take you down. But the rest of us are friendly. Well, okay. Well, I'm friendly. Don and Thomas not so much, but
no, I'm friendly up to a certain point. I'm not friendly. But so this basilisk idea, how does this relate to like the idea of these UAPs as they're now called? Which is, just so people know, it used to be UFO, which is unidentified flying objects. But now it's UAP, which is unidentified aerial phenomena. Because the other one assumed it was an object. So if we take away the assumption of object, it's just a phenomena, a thing that is perceived.
Something that is happening that we do not know what it is, what's going on. Well, the idea behind it, the reason I can't remember. It was during one of our pre-setup shows where everyone was kind of chatting, and somebody mentioned like something to the effect of, well, what if the aliens are the ones who don't want us to know? Like if we're under this like assumption that aliens aren't here, for the longest time we've been under that assumption, and then now it kind of seems like it's sort of slowly coming out that there's some evidence that they might be those things. Everyone's kind of joking about it a little bit, but I'm going like, but why would the government hide this from us? What would be the motivation? I'm going like, well, I can think of maybe one, and it's not mass panic. No, who's gonna panic? I got rent. Like I don't have time to panic about this shit. What are you talking about? I'm panicking about rent's due tomorrow. Like I'm gonna be panicking about
on the
that.
31st? Wait, is there a 31st this month or is there no 31st?
Is there 31st? Maybe.
Yeah, there is. No, you're good. You're good.
Never mind. I got one more day. Okay, I'll be panicking on the 1st. So,
yeah.
But like we have rent, we've got other things to worry about. Nobody's gonna be panicking. So that explanation just makes no sense. And I'm going like, well, why aren't the aliens the ones coming down and telling us? It seems like our government wouldn't be able to hide their existence unless they were on board. Like, unless they're the ones going, hey, don't tell anyone. So maybe it's something like the zoo hypothesis, or maybe it's just pieces of information they don't want us knowing. Like, let's say, for instance, they're not aliens. What if they're future human beings? But in us knowing that they are future human beings, say, for instance, we discover this fact that they are future human beings, that could be detrimental to the timeline, something to that effect. There's all sorts of different ways where this information could be potentially toxic and be problematic, right? There could be there's all sorts of, and it's very speculative on my end. So, but that was my speculation. I was like, what if if actually this information, the reason it's being hidden is because it's in some way toxic? And so the thought experiment, Broca's basilisk, is intended to show how information can just by itself be toxic.
But I think it is, because when we look throughout like history or whatever it might be, America has, like, for example, like UFO sightings in like the 60s, and it was the stealth bomber. They were testing the stealth bomber throughout the night. Or the stealth helicopter in the 80s, people saw and thought it was a UFO, whatever it might be. But now we're again in a position where we have these pilots who just got their, sonar systems reworked, and they go ahead and they go into the field, and they're seeing these new objects. They're seeing waves under the water being detected, and those objects disappear. Well, it just sounds to me like you guys were little test bunnies. You were little rats in a maze, and the federal government used you to test out countermeasures or ways of getting over this old, radar. And the part that, scares me the most is that this is now like in Congress, that the House had a whole committee about this, which is like the scariest part.
Yeah, I think they did have a response, because I don't know if you guys caught the congressional hearing and everything, but they did have a response because that question was asked. What if this is just like testing stuff? And the strange thing is our military has specified testing facilities. Also, when you're running like sort of military examinations, like what they were doing they're doing like basically like these test flights and things like that, right? You don't run multiple tests at the same time without the superior officers and people involved knowing, right? So like you don't do that because there are safety concerns involved. Like for instance, some of these reports, at least I think it was 11 of them, involved close enough encounters that they nearly ran into these objects. And so there's reasons that they're saying, hey, we have reason to think that this is not some alternative American stuff. This is not something that the Russians have or something like that. And it's too far advanced for someone else to be able to afford this. But it's also, if it were the case that it was being tested, it would be tested under controlled environments, and the pilots involved would be aware.
I love how credulous you are. I love how much you trust the government. That's so sweet.
It's not about trusting the government. I trust the pilots. I don't trust. Well, this whole thing is.
Do you
about
trust
not
the pilots?
the
those coked up guys who are
because
wearing compression suits, going like 8 Gs, like 30.
Yeah.
You no, I don't trust them. I feel like
and they're like tweaking out on the best kinds of like stimulants.
Drugs,
and
yeah.
yeah.
No,
tweaking.
But so let's see. I pulled up a video. Oh, shut up. Okay. I pulled up a video, and we're gonna view it. We're gonna view it right now.
Do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it, and let's see how we feel about this video.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you and Skiff about.
No, we don't want to advertise for them. Go away.
Wow, biologics, hey?
Yeah, I mean, he's claiming bodies. Now, the one thing I'll say about Grush that does give me pause is that all of his information is secondhand. It's not firsthand stuff. So it's all he's just talking about. He's just having he's just having all these other people talking to him, or he's having access to information. So he's sort of like a central hub for all the information, but he's not necessarily the one experiencing it himself.
Or he's being sent to lie, like because the government's about to hide some bigger shit.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I try not to like aggrandize things when it comes to like a whistleblower. Like, what would be the motivation? Well, are we trying to hide the Hunter Biden thing? Are we trying to like what is it? What would be trying to distract from that this would be beneficial for?
Don's got a theory.
Don's like, I know.
I really do think, while I don't have evidence for it, I really do believe that the main reason is, let's put it this way, the GOP right now is dealing with a classified information issue regarding the president. So what is the best way of making it, like, to make classified information less important, other than the fact that let's go ahead and talk about how the U.S. government hides so much and they overclassify so much, and this is why we don't have aliens. So I feel like the entire narrative that they're trying to paint is one which classified information, or the ability of the government to even have classified information, in and of itself is like illegitimate or wrong or outside the point of what the American people want, because that's what they're dealing. That's what the leader of the GOP is dealing with. So why wouldn't the GOP hold a committee looking at the lack of transparency and the problem with classifications? And how else do you reach MAGA retards? Well, you do it through any other conspiracy theory, whether it be 4chan, QAnon, and now we've got aliens. So that's really what I think is going on.
But the issue is that it's largely bipartisan. This has not been the congressional hearing was not like not even close to one side. I mean, AOC was sitting there, right? Like,
because she's a part of the committee. What, is she not going to sit there?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but I'm saying that it's a bipartisan effort. If she was under the suspicion of that, I'm betting. If I know her pretty well, I think she'd say something, right? If there was something behind that, I think I would trust AOC to say something. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you think that?
I mean, come on, not if it doesn't serve her interests. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think she definitely wants more government transparency, and she might be like okay with that part of the equation. But I don't know. I feel like there are certain military secrets just they gotta stay secrets because we have international like enemies to contend with. Right? You don't.
Well, part of the issue though is that there's lack of oversight. It's not just about it's not about the compartmentalization. It's that even like there was one of the people was talking about how the presidents can't get access to some of this information, so they're calling them like these rogue programs and things like that. I think that guy might be wrong, but if these programs, well, because I'm going like I would imagine there's no program the president couldn't get, because if we have these compartmentalized things, it would make sense that the president would have access, and none of the presidents came out and said that they weren't able to gain access. And so if one of them came out and said, "Hey, I asked for access to this," and the CIA director, blah blah blah, end up telling me no, I would be like, no, you don't tell the president he can't have access to the top secret information. He's actually the top of your branch of things. But then we have like Congress it's supposed to be the case that the people rule and the military serves the people, right? Not the other way around. And right now, Congress is saying, hey, we want access to this information. We want access to this. We want access to this. And they're saying no. That's not how this works.
Yeah,
but
that's not how this works.
No, why not? Why not?
It does.
Congress doesn't have unilateral power to do whatever it wants, to have access to whatever information. It's one branch of the government, which is supposed to be told. It can't just say, "Oh, I want information for this." No, you got to get a majority. You got to vote on it. You got to pass legislation.
And your own history points to that. Like, look at J. Edgar Hoover and what he did with like the executive branch. Basically, like had everyone in his pocket, had incriminating evidence, and basically kind of like ran shit behind the scenes because of.
Now who's trusting the government? Now who's trusting the government, ladies and
Hoover.
gentlemen? You guys.
I never said
I'm saying,
anything.
look,
The head
I
of
think
the
that I think we
CIA.
have to have oversight. I
Masha
think there has
talked
to be
about government
oversight.
trust, not
There
me.
needs to be access, and there
I think
are
it's terribly naive. I think believing any of those fairy stories about like real democracy is super naive. I think it's like all technocrats. It's like the forever Washington behind the scenes, like is actually like in control of the country.
Me calling it out is not me saying I believe that we actually are that. I've said before on the show, I think we're closer to an oligarch. I've said it multiple times. We end up being closer to an oligarch when you look at us on a political scale. But the idea,
Politicians are just
is that we
performers.
can only have a democracy if we speak out and we call these things out, right? So like part of our job is to say, hey,
but why aliens? Why? See, because out of everything that they could talk about transparency, out of the military failed an audit. The military could not account for billions upon billions of dollars that it got. And yet we're talking with someone and you're bringing someone into Congress who's literally saying that he knows they literally have alien bodies.
Mm-hmm.
This is unsubstantiated. And then when you ask, well, what is your evidence? He responds with, I can't give it to you publicly. Isn't this entire thing about transparency?
Well, that leads me to another theory as well. Like, what if the reason we don't want to tell the public that we have alien bodies is because we told the aliens we don't have their bodies and their ships? I mean, I'm just throwing out, spitballing ideas, going like, maybe we don't want them knowing. Like,
oh my god,
it's not that we don't want everybody else to know. We just don't want them going. You have our ships and our bodies. Get those back.
Come on, come on. Let's apply Occam's razor to this. You know, like
what is that? That's the thing that they brought up was Occam's razor. What is the simplest explanation? And the problem is there's not a good one.
The simplest explanation is that they'd be lying.
The same thing that they said in the 60s and 70s. The U.S. was testing shit without their consent because guess what? Fighter pilots' lives or whatever. We have more important things to do. It's just not it's not as interesting. We want to fuck with your, and they're talking about things from 2004. I'm waiting till the day where I don't get a Baghdad shaky cam on some fucking Nokia from like 2003 with some black and white speckle in the distance. Get me evidence. I don't want to see shit until I get evidence.
Well, I mean, have you not watched the videos that they presented and stuff? Did you not see any of that?
I've watched all the UFO videos out there.
Yeah, I mean, these are declassified military documents. For anyone who's watching and you're not aware, the U.S. military declassified a large number of these sort of videos. These aren't like people with their little random cameras taking pictures. These are fighter pilots. One of them was one of the ones that was testifying. His video was the highest quality I've ever seen of any
Tic Tac video.
Yeah, the Tic Tac video. If you see it flies by, they slow it down, they end up pausing it, and that is
let me try to pull up the
looking
Tic Tac
craft.
video. Let me try to pull up the Tic Tac video.
Yeah, see if you can find it.
While that, we actually have a caller, everyone. We have John Boy calling in.
Let's go.
John Boy, you can unmute and talk to everyone while I go and find this information.
For real.
What's up, John Boy?
Hey.
Oh wait, John. I was talking with John Boy the other day in chat. Actually, I just remember you're like all read up on this and watching this stuff. So
I'm a fan.
Maybe we can have a good chat. What's up, man?
I'm a super fan. Aliens are real.
Okay, no, but seriously, what's your question?
I don't have a question. I'm just here to talk about aliens.
Yeah, let's chat about it. What are your thoughts? Do you when we're looking at these sort of videos and these pieces of information, we've got intelligence officers coming forward like Rush. We've got pilots coming forward saying this is a normal occurrence now. Like this isn't some random backseat thing. They have it as a part of their briefings before they go out on these missions because they're like, why are we running into all of these things all around us like this? What are your thoughts?
I'm with you. I think it's crazy. I mean, we're definitely getting some type of a signal, especially when you have this type of like really credible witness testimony and you have like corroborating physical evidence from other sensor systems. So all of that's like something. I don't know, like we can like make a hard claim at this stage, but something's happening. And it seems like there are people that know stuff that don't want to share it. And sure, we could like speculate it's for national security, and that may very well be the case, but I'm definitely concerned about like the lack of congressional oversight.
Yeah, that's the part that is the most down to earth. But part of it is the congressional oversight issues. Like I just think that if we don't have this kind of oversight, and the military personnel, they don't seem to know what's going on. The CIA is mum's the word, and then Congress is going, "Hey, we need answers," and they're going, "Shut the door in their face." And it's like, something's weird. So if we think that these are like foreign vessels or something like that, someone is like literally centuries ahead of us in technology. Like literally, they're centuries ahead of us. I don't know who it is.
Oh, ahead of what we're allowed to know about. Like honestly, it's so unlikely that we haven't made advancements. You know, in the age of flight, like that there was this like incredible flourishing, this renaissance in science, and we attained flight, and then we've basically been stuck for 60 plus years. Like that's unlikely. I'm sure that we have better stuff than your governments let you know about.
Yeah, but I mean, going straight from space all the way down to 20,000 feet,
Yeah,
staying
the
there for
leap
3
is
hours,
huge.
and then returning to space. There's no one on Earth with that capability, even we're not even close to that. Like, I don't know if you're familiar, SpaceX is still working on reusable rockets. We can't even reuse our rockets, let alone make it fly up, fly back down, hover for 3 hours, and then fly back up. There's nothing. You would have to be literally so far ahead of us. It would be insane. We would need there to be a Wakanda out there hiding in some invisible force field in the middle of
I
Buckingham
believe more in a
nowhere.
Wakanda than the government has zero gravity alien
Yeah.
spaceships.
Yeah, same.
Right, like
Well, I mean, I didn't make it that far, but
no, but this is what I'm trying to tackle, right? We know there are UAPs, right? We know that there's things the government's picking up, whatever it is, that military people are picking up. We know that's happening. But the problem that I'm getting to is that just ideas. So, you know, like we talked about academic brinksmanship last time. You lay up all the points, all the arguments, and then you raise your hand and say, "Oh, I'm not talking about aliens." No, say that I do not believe this is aliens. There's no evidence to prove this is aliens. There's no evidence to prove this is extraterrestrial life. But there are these phenomena, and we should explore them more. Is an entirely different argument than what that person said on the stand and what the people in Congress let him get away with saying. And I think
well, I
that's
mean,
an important
I'm
part
not
to
like
recognize.
100% convinced, like, oh, it's aliens. I'm a natural skeptic. I've always been a skeptic. It's always been my nature. But I also believe in intellectual courage, right? When enough people are coming out, when Dr. Michio Kaku says something, and I'm quoting him here, he said, it's now on the U.S. government to demonstrate that these are not aliens. Like, we're seeing these, everyone's seeing this with our own two eyes. It's enough evidence that, I mean, Dr. Michio Kaku is going, you guys need to, you need to explain this. What's going on? If it's not what we all think it is, everyone else is going, hey, this looks like aliens. If it's not aliens, it's on you. Please explain it to us. Why is it not aliens? Just just give us like
Yeah.
what is the threshold of information to where we are convinced. I'm convinced that maybe it's something like, for instance, maybe there's some sort of a society living under the ocean for all I know, right? It could be
That's more likely.
that would be just as incredibly insane
Yeah.
as aliens, right? That would be just as
So
phenomenal.
why
What I'm
aliens?
saying though is,
So why aliens? Why do we?
well, it's
I think it's you know why I think it's aliens. I think it's aliens because of movies and
Yeah.
TV and American media and sci-fi knowledge. When they started discovering space, literally shit out book after book with film after film dealing with aliens, and now that's just stuck in the zeitgeist. So we talk
Well, I
about
would
aliens
imagine
when
that
we see
space travel
flying.
is easier than some things. Like, for instance, space travel would be significantly easier than interdimensional travel, which was one thing that they offered as an explanation. Time travel was another one. So, like, if they were able to travel backwards in time, I think that's theoretically more difficult than flying between planets. And so, I'm narrowing down the other options, and then
Wait,
an entire
what about if
society
it's
being able
yeah.
to become entirely
How did you
independent
get that
on the planet?
that time travel is less likely than aliens coming
Yeah, I was gonna
across
ask
solar
that. I was
systems?
gonna say
It's about theoretical possibility. Like, if you talk to a theoretical physicist, I don't know if you guys have spent a lot of time talking to them. They'll say that, like, for
Thomas
instance, traveling
has.
faster than the speed of light is difficult, but we do have theoretically ways to do so. But most theoretical physicists will tell you time travel is impossible. It doesn't make any sense. Not only are there contradictory issues, so there's philosophical reasons to think that time travel is not possible, but there's also from physicists reasons to think it's impossible. And if you want, there's one physicist that I follow on YouTube. She's fantastic. She goes through this very thoroughly, and the explanations just don't make sense for how we could potentially do it. The amount of energy that it would require to time travel, even if it were theoretically possible, and there weren't contradictory issues for it, theoretically, the amount of energy it would take would be drastically higher than the amount of energy it would take to travel from one location.
All right. So what about interdimensional beings?
Well, they were talking about the holographic principle, which is there's dimensions between spaces.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I just find that one highly implausible because there's
that's
like
a little bit
interaction
different
problems.
than what the holographic principle is, but
you can explain it. Yeah, go ahead, Thomas. What's
the
the
holographic principle the holographic principle just states that things can be encoded onto a three-dimensional object, onto a two-dimensional object in 3D. So like that's why black holes are the best like hard drives, because holographically all of the information that has been, the information, quote unquote, has been stored on the event horizon of a black hole. So that's what you're kind of talking about is like membrane theory, where there's like different dimensional membranes.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, so it's similar to that. I'm not really. I mean, interdimensional travel. I mean, goddamn, who the fuck knows, right? And in terms of like, I have talked to a lot of physicists, and I talked to Krauss about this. It's not really about speed. It's more about like either folding space, or he put on a balloon, and he was like, if I stretch this part of the balloon and make them touch, then there's no distance I have to travel, but there's still separate places on the balloon. You know what I mean? So it's really cool how he talks about that. If we ever try to travel faster than a couple of 100,000 miles an hour, we're all going to be bloody paste inside of anything that we do. So that's the crazy thing about maybe the Tic Tac. If it is in fact what it is, what some people are proposing, there would have to be some kind of technology we're not aware of, some kind of gravity defying technology that I couldn't even fathom. So
I just find the potential leaks in information.
I have the Tic Tac video pulled up.
You guys do it. Let's watch it. Let's watch it together.
Let's see it.
I'm glad to have John Boy here.
Play it.
Let's do it.
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
I thought this was a different one than the Tic Tac.
Yeah, this is different than the Tic Tac one.
Yeah, this is different one than the Tic Tac.
This is gimbal video.
Is it? I thought this was the right one.
Well, no, you can go ahead and finish playing this one because it is weird how it like turns right there. I mean, but this can be explained by a myriad of different things. I watched a video one time on VFX artists debunking these things, and it is weird when you're traveling in a plane how other things can seem to be like they're traveling with you in a relative position, especially above water where you're looking down upon water. It's really cool. Just go to YouTube, type in VFX artists debunks UAP evidence or UFO evidence. I'm not convinced that it's been altered or anything like that, but it is. It's pretty cool evidence to look at. So
let me see if I can find I'll see if I can find the video, because the video I'm referring to is the one where the pilot ends up pulling out his own camera and he films right as he's passing, like immediately.
Yeah, I've seen that one
here
too.
It is right here, actually.
I'm just gonna say on this last video, like the pilot says "gosh," like there's no way that if you were like in the presence of something you actually thought was an alien, you'd be like, "Gosh."
No,
I'm a good old boy.
I do think that maybe that to say gosh, or maybe they do think it. Just I don't know. It seems to me like we're appealing to our ignorance. What could it be? How is it not aliens?
Okay.
Like, why are we doing that? Why are we appealing to our ignorance? Why are we appealing to that which we don't know? You know,
here, I'm gonna pull up the. This is not the video itself, but the image on the left over here. This is the image that was taken from inside the fighter pilots. He was the guy who was flying I think it was an F-16. He took a picture and he took an image or a video of this thing flying past him. And it was moving. He said it was moving more than Mach speeds, so it was moving very fast, even in the video. But they slowed it down and they took the image, and that's it.
I totally trust the guy coked out of his mind. Yeah, for sure. Let's watch it.
Why are we giving? Why are we? This seems like a character attack. Like, why would we?
No. The reason why. The reason why I'm saying that I'm not character attacking is because we need the evidence of the UFOs. We have evidence of unidentified aerial phenomena, but to say that it's extraterrestrial lives. That's what. Why'd you remove the picture?
Oh, you want to see it again? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought we were done looking at it. Let's go back to it.
We gotta watch. Oh, there's no videos of it.
There is a video, but it's so fast that you really can't see it very well. But then they slow it down, and that's how we get this image. So you want to watch this guy talk about it?
Screw it. Go ahead.
Maybe there's a.
Yeah, let's watch this guy talk about it.
I can't
it's
hear.
the same thing we just watched. Though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those are the triangle ones too. He must be going through a couple of different ones.
Yeah, there's triangle ones. There's so many different ones. Okay, I guess
There's the one we just watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, the triangle one I haven't. I'm not as persuaded of the triangle one. This one is like I said. This one is the one that made me go, "Uh oh." Like I was like, "Wait a second."
Why did it make you go? I honestly, I believe more that it's just the government has some crazy tech that they're not trying to let people know about.
I like your other theory, Dun, that it's some kind of tulpa, like some kind of like we've invested like just a massive amount of belief and like human cognition to it, and then like kind of created it in a potentially holographic way, like non-material, but like it's in the mass consciousness now.
Well, I want
to risk real quick, Don. I'm a little bit with Tart on this because would they risk damaging like their $1 million trained fighter pilots and stuff?
Yes.
They would.
The U.S. government historically has literally massacred people on front lines as experiments. We have just, for fun, dropped billions of dollars in bombs on like poor farmers in Afghanistan to see how good they are. Why would they not?
So we could buy more. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. So like, I don't see the issue here. I mean, listen, historically,
that is an issue. We shouldn't do that.
I mean, we shouldn't. Fine, that's a good oversight. I don't know about the aliens thing. I think.
Yeah, but why is it happening now on a routine basis? Did we do this on a routine basis? Because we're not talking about a handful of incidents, right? We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of reported incidents from pilots. That's 11 of them were near miss, almost collisions, right? Those were the 11 of them were like that. Do we really think that the U.S. military is routinely testing technology on in certain regions of the world where they can come from thousands of miles?
Why are all these all these sightings in the U.S.? Why is it all Americans? It's basically like if you look at like a hotspot, like a map of like who's experiencing like alien sightings or visitations or like pilot interference of like UAPs, whatever. It's like overwhelmed, like 99% it's Americans.
Well, that's actually incorrect. Iran also declassified just a few years ago. I don't know if you, but around the time that America was declassifying this, Iran also their military declassified information. They were having the same kinds of encounters on in their naval locations. So what it is none of the governments are talking to each other. It's just America's the one saying stuff. And we also have one of the largest navies in the world.
Hang on, there's a comment. There's a comment from Mimi. Maybe we want to scare China. Look at all these alien UFOs we have, China. Good comment.
That would be a funny explanation. The things that are convincing me is how far ahead someone would have to be in order for this to be probable. Like for instance, we just don't have anything close to that. Like I think that the common people think, oh, the government has access to this amazing magical technology. You know, we watch the spy movies and we see them doing. We don't have shit like that. We don't have that.
How do you know? You can't say that. How do you know?
I don't believe we have that because we don't even understand the physics behind it. We don't have anything even close to that. This is beyond. When physicists look at this, they go, "No, we don't. We wouldn't know how to do that. Like, how would you even theoretically do some of this stuff? Like that's the big kicker is when scientists go."
I'm with you, Tart.
Yeah, I just think I'm looking at it and what I think actually is happening is people are afraid to be called a quack or a kook. If it comes out I'm wrong, I'll say, hey, look, I was wrong. Yeah, it was better explained by this, and I was just incorrect, right? But I think we're so afraid of being wrong that we're afraid to say, you know what, that looks like fucking aliens. Like, I'm sorry, Mr. Government, that looks like aliens. Like, I
think that we just have to have enough hubris to say, I don't know what that is, but that's fucking wicked. It's a very different thing of saying that's aliens. I could just as well say, I don't know what that is. That is definitely angels.
There
I don't know what that is. Yeah. That is definitely Wakanda.
Well,
I don't
the right
know what
wing
that
is definitely calling that out.
Real.
I mentioned this in a chat in one of our partner Discord channels, the PNR, and they were all, it's demons, and I'm not even kidding. Some of the people in the chat were saying it's demons.
I believe they were.
It was cracking me up. I was like, I don't believe it's demons. I think it's more realistic.
Well,
to think
let's. I know Thomas's section is exactly about why we believe
conspiracy
theories.
It's a bit longer than the other. I don't want to take up too much time. You know,
let's try to meld it in. We got 30 more minutes left.
All right, I'll do my best.
Okay, go ahead. You got solo.
So
You're soloed now.
It's basically, I went to the University of Louisiana on their website and looked around, and also went to the University of Chicago, looked at other places that basically why we can trust. Why conspiracy happen, why we believe them, how they spread, all that kind of stuff. So the periodic emergence of narratives about clandestine, malevolent actors secretly plotting political and social calamities influences policy debate about everything, but conspiracy theories are not the delusions of paranoid minds. A recent poll from the University of Louisiana shows that more than 50% of Americans believe in one conspiracy or another. What makes conspiracies an interesting phenomenon is that they have loyal followers and are believed more or less by ordinary people. That's the thing. So a few common characteristics of conspiracy theories are that first, they locate the source of unusual social and political phenomenon in unseen, intentional, and malevolent forces. Second, they often interpret political events in terms of the struggle between good and evil. And third, most conspiracy theories suggest that mainstream reporting of public affairs is a ruse or an attempt to distract the public from a true source of power. So just another couple of statistics, and then I'll shut up on this. It says, according to the university, a study conducted by the University of Chicago in 2021, 19% of Americans believe the government was behind the 9/11 attacks. 25% believe the 2008 recession was caused by a small cabal of Wall Street bankers. And 11% believe the government mandated a switch to compact fluorescent light bulbs in government buildings because they make people obedient and easier to control. What do you think?
I mean, my initial reaction is I think the reason that we're so apt to believe like conspiracy theories and things like that, we like to have a sense that someone's doing it intentionally. It's sort of the same thing as like God concepts, right? But I think we invent God with the intention of like we want something to explain things, and we want it to be an intentional thing and not something that somebody did by accident.
Well, I'll tell you why. I mean, if you look
Someone
at
else did it
evolutionary,
purposefully.
if you look at evolutionary psychology, it's a trait that we have called apophenia, which is like the tendency to perceive a connection or a pattern, a meaningful pattern between unrelated or seemingly random things. So we have that ability in order to imagine what life on the other side of the hill is like. It allows us to go and forage for more food and newer places, and it's a part of our evolutionary structure, just like many other different survival things in our genotype. But mainly, I guess the point is that people naturally try to make sense of the world, and motivated reasoning is a psychological phenomena that describes how people rely on biased cognitive processes while assessing, constructing, and evaluating their beliefs, like confirmation bias or disconfirmation bias or the attitude congruence bias. There's a couple of them that we use and then come to fallacious reasons because of that. So I can read more, but I don't want to take up too much time. So,
well, two things. One, is your camera shaking because you're being abducted by aliens?
I hope so. I hope so.
My legs, man, I can't stop. I have restless leg syndrome, so I can't really
No,
stop.
I love it. I just have to point it out. But what do you? Because I and I think Masha also, we find while we agree that the videos are real. Obviously, the videos are real. We just disagree with, well, what is it if it's not aliens? Do you think that Tart is making any of these biases or no?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry, what?
That was a question for you, Thomas.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Say that again.
Okay. Well, both I and Masha recognize these videos are real. We're not like, oh, these videos aren't real. It's all doctored fake, NASA conspiracy. Like, we're not going in that direction. We say these are real videos. We just don't make the leap of saying it's aliens. Oh, Masha, you think it's NASA conspiracy videos?
I mean, some of them are kind of fake. Like, some of them seem a bit like, okay.
Exaggerated? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But the ones that are real, sure. The ones that we saw, those videos are videos, and what's happening in those videos did happen. But I'm interested, do you think that Tart might be engaging in some of these biases? Where he's...
I mean, yeah, it's possible. I mean, I want to think
I love you, Tart,
that ridiculous things are on the fringe. You know what I mean? That don't, rare things happen rarely. So I don't know. I mean, I would not assume that it's aliens because of the Fermi paradox. I'm pretty convinced
there you go. Let's go.
that the aliens are going to be a problem. However, that doesn't mean there's not aliens.
Can you explicate that?
Well, the Fermi paradox is so goddamn hard. There's so much to it, but basically, it's about the great filter. I mean, if you want to explain it, go for it.
I can go through it real quick. So
yeah, sure.
The Fermi paradox is essentially just a simple question. It's like, okay, well, it seems like we have hundreds of trillions of stars. Some subset of those stars, and an innumerably huge amount of those stars probably have Earth-like planets. Some subset of them have Earth-like planets, and that subset, even if it's a very tiny fraction of them, that's still an enormous number of planets that are
Are you talking
capable
about
of
the
bearing
Drake
life.
equation?
No. This is the Fermi
Okay.
paradox. And
Okay.
so
Go ahead. My
essentially, what
bad.
he asks is, he says, "Well, wait a second. If we have this huge number of possible worlds where there's life forming and societies forming, and yet we have this strange phenomena where there's none of them around. Where is everybody?" Essentially,
Mhm.
so the Fermi paradox is this weird thing where we have the probability that aliens exist is probably about 100. It's almost perfectly 100. There's probably life out there somewhere, but the question
Yeah.
is where is everybody?
Is it here's the question?
Well, that the Fermi paradox is just saying where is everybody? Why aren't we
The
seeing
big
it?
thing about it is that there's a filter, and it's a great filter that we have either met and passed, and we're one of the few that have, or that we haven't gotten to it yet, and that's what destroys civilizations. So there's a lot to. My recommendation is go to YouTube, look up the Fermi paradox. There's a lot of good videos on it. Get yourself familiarized with those ideas, because logically speaking, it's hard to deny that information. If TARD is engaging any confirmation bias, maybe I engage in confirmation bias all the time. So, but I can't say it's aliens. I'm not going to say it's aliens. I'm going to say it is unidentified, it is aerial, and it is phenomena. So that's all I can scientifically say.
I think it's
Until I have
possible that I am engaging in some sort of a bias. Like I grant that, right? And I also grant that it's possible that I'm incorrect, but I'm persuaded that the likelihood is high that this is the case. Like that I'm just persuaded of it.
Okay.
And I'm a natural skeptic, so but I'm going like, look, there's a high probability that there's aliens out there anyways. And there's at least, and it seems like it's probably easier for them to get from planet to planet than from dimension to dimension or time to time. Uh, I'm gonna say, well, this makes more sense. I'm gonna go along with it. And if it turns out I'm wrong, and I'm fine taking that bullet. I'm not scared of that. I think one of my biggest problems is people confuse skepticism with cowardice. Their gut says, that looks like aliens, and they go, no, now wait a second. It's like, no, there's also intellectual courage. Come out and say what you think, and don't be afraid to say it. Don't be afraid, and back it up. If there's information out there that backs up your position, back it up. I'm a skeptic, but I'm also courageous. I'm not afraid to come out and say what I think.
Sure.
So I think that's the highest probability. But
I think if you just look at history, people have been crying aliens for so long. It's like the boy who cried wolf at this point.
We don't have
You're
a
gonna have to show
probability
them.
for aliens because we have no prior incidents. So I would
Yeah,
say,
we also don't have
what's
any.
your denominator, Tart? What's your denominator?
yeah, that's the. I'm not trying to crush you.
No, I'm
Tyler.
fucking with you.
I'm just saying
It's
that's
life.
the problem. You know,
The
we don't have
reason
any
that we
prior.
don't know the exact conditions that produce life, right? We don't even know how life begins or anything like that. So we don't for that goes to the Drake equation. The Drake equation is essentially we have these different factorials that we've put together. All these different factors, we're putting them together and making a mathematical probabilistic model for what's the probability life exists. Not probable between our universe and other universes, but between planet to planet, based on how many planets there are.
I see.
And we don't exactly know all the pieces, but what we do know is that the Earth-like planets can, in theory, support life. And so, how many Earth-like planets there probably are, based on our understanding? Like, for
A lot,
instance,
a shit ton.
our yellow star is, they call it a yellow star. It's not actually yellow; it's white. But these sort of massive stars that are about the mass of ours that have produced planets within what we call the Goldilocks zone, which
That's
is the
right.
zone that can support life and because it can
Yeah.
have liquid water, is
The answer to
very,
the Drake
very
equation could
probable.
be anywhere
Very
from like,
probable.
yeah, the
Life,
answer.
life that's recognizable to us, like carbon-based life, yes.
Yeah,
But there
Yeah,
might be
exactly.
other types of life forms, right?
like silicon life and that. Yeah.
The
those
answer
sort of
to the
things.
Drake equation could be 10 planets, or it could be 10 million planets. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Is we have to have more information than what we have, and
The
just a big
scariest
guessing game.
explanation for the Fermi paradox is probably the dark forest hypothesis. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's the idea that imagine it's sort of a thought experiment though. It's like imagine you're in a dark forest and you're a hunter. So you've got your gun, and it's quiet. It's very quiet. Now you probably know it's very likely there are other hunters in that forest. Now let's say for instance you find one. That hunter's armed and ready to go, and you don't know who's better armed, you or the other hunter. And maybe it's the case this other hunter is hostile and will kill you. It might make more sense to shoot first and ask questions later, so to speak. And so, what if there are these? What if the reason we're not finding any of these societies is that they are intentionally hiding themselves. They don't want their location broadcasted. They don't want other species to know they exist, because if other species know they exist, it's as easy as hurtling a really big rock at the planet to wipe
What's
out
the
all life.
likelihood that all aliens are doing that, though? You know what I mean?
If they all come to the same conclusion, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a fun thought.
Listen,
experiment.
I played enough Stellaris to let you know that all aliens are resource hungry.
What about the other thing aliens are famously hungry for? There's been a lot of comments about would you like date one, and like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to marry one.
Is it bestiality? Is it like
it's
condoned?
it's zenality, or whatever that would be called. Xena sexiality.
I mean, I already declared myself as like a James T. Kirk kind of like acolyte. I would if I could.
Yeah, for sure.
I played enough video games and watched enough sci-fi stuff to say yes.
If it's sentient,
if
it's sentient,
eat it, fuck it, or kill it. You know?
Eat it, fuck it, kill it. You got to pick one.
The Holy Trinity.
Yeah. So, which would you do, Tart, with aliens?
Probably fuck it.
I'm gonna go with fuck it.
Yeah,
fuck it.
Don.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to get some weird alien STD. I don't know if I'm down with that. I'm not like. They're already creepy enough as it is. STDs. Imagine like a bizarre one. I don't want to be patient zero for like new AIDS. Like I'm just not interested.
Damn.
In that.
What if aliens show up? What if aliens show up one day and it's just more humans?
Yeah,
that would be creepy.
That would be really cool.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool.
The Nordics, those ones, like that typology or physiognomy, whatever. Like those are.
Yeah.
That's I'm down. I'm into it. Not the little grays though. No.
Right, the little grays are the whole third and Close Encounters with the Third Kind. That programmed into the ethos of
also the UFO shape. The UFO shape is also another one that is kind of programmed into our.
Yeah, everybody thinks of
there are theories that there's a reason for that. Like for instance, our B-12 bombers, the reason they're so difficult to detect is because of their curvatures. So that the curved space on them makes them very, very difficult to detect with radars and things like that.
Well, in the 60s they kept seeing those being flown around and tested, and people were like, "The aliens!" And
maybe it's the other way around. Maybe we put them together and said, well, you know. But it's interesting that people notice the curvatures of the B-12s, but. Yeah,
they were testing them. They were testing them.
Definitely.
Well, I think the main question is, did they take Elvis or did they not take Elvis? And I think that's where we're going to leave it off for tonight about aliens. What's your take?
Yes.
Okay. We can move on to 2 points. We can either get into that gun conversation that I really want to get to, or we can jump straight into the Israel boring politics stuff.
You really want to talk? You want to talk about Israeli politics?
No, I actually want to talk about guns because I have the stats right here. But who has more guns per capita, Canada or the U.S.? And you said that Canada had more guns per capita than the U.S.
I googled it too. I was going to bring it up. I googled it too. Told you we needed a segment called Somebody Google that shit.
Yeah. Damn it. But I mean, that shifted in I think it was 2007. That's when the kind of shift happened. But before that, I was right.
Well, right now it's 120 guns per 100 people and 34 guns per 100 people in Canada.
Okay, but those are all estimates, right? And a lot of Canadian gun owners went underground. No, there's reasons why I'm still right.
Is the main count, Don? It's like 410 million guns and 330 million people, 340 million people. Is that about right?
I don't know exactly what it is. It just says,
I think that was what I remember seeing.
I mean, I'm on Wikipedia. I can just share it right now. We have the power of the wiki.
Do it.
So, let's see. Share. At the scene. There we go. This is what we have, right? So the United States, 120 people per 100 people with firearms. This is the population.
About 400 million. Yep.
And then they say there's 1 million registered and 392 unregistered firearms because there's no national registry in the United States. And then this is Canada, right?
Yeah.
7th on the list. And this is their guns. So
who's the least? Sort it by number up there, Don.
Oh, by most? Most is best per capita.
Estimate of firearms in civilian possession. Sort it by that.
America.
Who has go back to that? Go back to that other. Hit it again. Who has 1 or 100?
They just I don't know. I don't even think these places have like information of how to collect the statistics, right? So these are just blanket guesses, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, we're up there.
We're number one, America, number one in everything.
Yeah, by far is what it looks like. India has the second most guns.
No, that's not how.
No, estimated firearms in civilian possession is that's yeah, but just number of guns per capita, it's America, then Yemen, Serbia, Montenegro, then Canada. Canada does have a lot of guns. Not a question that they don't have a lot of guns.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, so that's more recent, and I think that there's been kind of like flight. Like Canada has different, obviously, rules for gun ownership, and so I think the estimates are based on different things because Canadians, there was like 2 attempts to create a national gun registry, anyway, there's 2 classes of guns, restricted and unrestricted, and so the basis for belief that that's the number of guns in the hands of Canadians per capita, I think is kind of like probably not so real. Like I think these statistics are a little bit skewed, but
well, all statistics are not perfect. They have a standard deviation. We can find what those standard deviations are. But the reason why I think we brought it up to begin with was because I made the claim that wherever there's a higher concentration of guns per capita, there is higher homicide, period.
I thought we were talking about mass shootings specifically.
Well, I don't know about mass shootings. I haven't done the research. I was talking about homicide specifically.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought we were talking about mass shootings and like school shootings and stuff. I claimed that mass shootings and particularly school shootings were a fairly an almost exclusively American phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
They might be. It might be an American phenomenon.
That actually seems correct. I don't know, but that seems correct.
Well, when it happened in Australia, mass shooting, they were just like, "Fuck the guns," so like, eat them out of existence. Basically.
Yeah, the guns were gone immediately afterwards. They did the thing that conservatives or terrified Americans would do. They did it. They were like, "Yeah, we're taking the guns now. Everybody line up."
I mean, people can still have like pistols and stuff and like shotguns, you know.
Yeah.
So. Can they? Yeah, correct. They can have like rifles and hunting rifles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You just can't have ARs. By the way, I love shooting guns. I just hope everyone knows this. Every time I have a chance, I go and shoot.
I love shooting long guns, like shotguns and rifles, but I'm not crazy about. I mean, target shooting and skeet and stuff like that is fun, but there's like a lot of guns on like the kind of like restricted registry in Canada that. I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know. It's easy to go wrong with it, you know?
I like guns and all, but I recognize they are toys. Very big, very fun toys, but they are toys in the sense that we play with them. They're not something that we usually. I grew up out in the middle of nowhere. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, hunting and this and that." Look, my whole family is. I'm from. Half my family's from Alabama, the rest of them's from Georgia. We do a lot of hunting. We use a lot of guns. I knew how to shoot a gun before I knew how to ride a bicycle. But I also understand that, hey, look, this is a thing that we play with. It's not a toy in the sense that children should be given one willy-nilly, but it is a toy in the sense of just like an ATV. Like, you know, you got a four-wheeler, you got a one of those things. That's a toy, whether you want it to be or not. It's a very dangerous toy, but it is in fact a toy. And if these toys are causing problems, then we need to readdress, like, you know, how can we go about keeping that from happening?
Well, I think education. It's totally education. It's not like trying to restrict or take away guns. I think you add gun safety to like a grade schooler's education. Like, you know, how to properly. I don't see why not. It's pretty simple to understand. And I
trust people like my parents with guns. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people I trust with guns.
But I think that while we can take like the education route, we also have to like take put ourselves in the position of someone making public policy prescriptions. Right, like we have to make sure that while it sounds good, we have to educate people with guns and make sure that there's all these rules and boundaries around these guns. We also have to recognize like the data is pretty clear on it, right? Where
what's the assumption here? Am I being asked to recognize the data is clear on?
Well, I'll show you that studies have shown that across high income nations, more guns equals more homicides. Right, they analyzed the relationship between homicide and gun availability using data from 26 developed countries.
So you're assuming causality. Nice.
No, you're not. You're not. You're simply assuming a relationship between the two. But there's one aspect that we can change here. right? We can't just lower the amount of homicides if we want, but we can't lower the amount of guns available in the population. Like I
No,
don't
you
think
can't. No, you can't.
you
Are you
can't.
serious?
Other
No, you
countries have
can't.
done it. Other countries have done
You
it.
can make it illegal, but well, I
I
mean,
didn't say
you
make it
can
illegal.
you can make the number of guns in the hands of like responsible gun owners who are law abiding. You can change their gun owners. Yes, you can change the number
No,
of
but
guns
there's other
in those hands,
there's
but not.
I think we can be a bit more creative than that, right? We can say things like, we can do specific buyback programs or de-incentivization programs, or like people who have unmarked guns illegally find like off the street who need money, the government will buy them back from you, even if it has the serial number scratched off or other things like that, which will encourage like people who are in poverty to sell those guns instead of hold on to them. Because that's where we kind of see the issue. So we can be creative in how we deal with this without actually forcing anyone to do anything, but just do it, right?
I think that's
So-
incredibly naive, honestly. Like, I think that's for a number of reasons, just totally unworkable. Like, you can try a gun buyback program or like a gun amnesty program or whatever, but there's just no way that the people that you want giving up their guns, they're not going to be the ones that are going to take advantage of that.
If you look at things, though, the people who would that kind of a program would appeal to are not the kind of people, those are the people that we might worry about, right? Like, for instance, the law-abiding citizen, that your average Joe, my family members own a lot of guns. They're not going to want to sell their guns, right? They're going to keep them, and they're all law-abiding people. They're
not going to sell their guns.
Responsible gun owners. But if I have a stolen firearm and I can get away with selling it and not keeping it, I'm gonna take the money incentive, right? Like, and I've had firearms stolen from me, like, so I could see that being a valid way to go.
Okay, but
Like,
there's also a gun buyback program, and I don't remember where. I should have had this lined up ready to talk about, but there was someone who continued to show up with 3D printed guns, like had a gun like mountains of them. I just like cashing in thousands and thousands of dollars.
That's brilliant. I think that person deserves a Medal of Honor for brilliance, because that is genius.
Yeah.
That's an investment idea if this comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
People find loopholes, and people
yeah,
find
for
loopholes.
sure, for sure. We're always trying to like figure out where the loopholes are and where the boundaries are. I want the conversation to not just be about this making guns illegal, but actually contend with the reality that we seriously have an issue in this country when it comes to guns. We have an issue when it comes to mass shootings. We have an issue when it comes to gun ownership, and we just have to actually figure out a way to deal with that problems, as opposed to say it's impossible, we can't do it, it's tyranny, it's Nazi Germany, it's communist Russia, it's Mao Zedong, it's Venezuela. I think we can actually like think about how to deal with this problem instead of just saying like keeping it so politicized.
And we can't keep like complaining and pretending that the laws don't work. They do work when they're countrywide. For instance, as an example, when was the last time you saw a mass shooting that happened because of a fully automatic rifle?
They don't.
It doesn't happen. Why? Because we have certain rules and restrictions on it. One, you can get them. One, they're expensive. They are very expensive because they're not produced and not sold on the market. But if you do produce and sell them on the market, they're very expensive too. You have to have a certain type of licensure. So you have to go and get certain types of training. You have to get those kind of licenses. And then once you have those licenses, you can go and purchase it. But the people who are doing this are not looking at the long-term strategy.
That is actually true.
Like that.
I just wanted to point out that is actually true. My dad's a state trooper, and he actually had to get a license for a fully automatic weapon.
I've seen people who own AK-47s and things like that, like and not just like not modified ones, but like ones that are built with like arms dealers and things like that. But you can get them, but those aren't the ones that we're worried about. Why are we not worried about those? Because those aren't the ones being purchased for these sorts of shootings and homicides and things like that. These are things that are purchased by law-abiding, good citizens who are just wanting to have a really cool thing to own. That's the kind of people these laws benefit. Right? Are those the people like Masha, who is not going to be a psychopath and come over and shoot poor little Tardy? She's gonna protect her home and things like that. And if you ever notice like the difference between people who live in a city and people who live in a country, like who live out in the
that's real. The rural-urban divide is real about guns and gun safety and how seriously
having lived in both. I have a theory as to why.
Okay.
So when I lived out in the countryside area, if I called the police, they took 30, 45 minutes to get to your house. No matter where you were, it took a very long time. So if somebody were to break into my home and they were armed or had even a knife on them, I'm screwed. but if I have a firearm, I'm protected, and so there is that concern. Like, we want people to have that kind of safety for their homes, particularly in rural areas where they don't have that kind of protection.
But
the other thing that happens
wanna...
in rural areas, and like I know that Canada tried to recently float the idea of like an end to private gun ownership, and the thing is in rural areas, like I don't actually firearms wouldn't be my go-to for protection in my home. I actually hunt, so that's why I own the guns that I do. And a lot of people here will have guns for like varmint control, so they're like shooting coyotes and other kind of animals that harass their livestock, whatever, and also hunting. And like among those hunters are many indigenous people who have a right to hunt on their ancestral land. And so like I just think that like where the rubber meets the road in these kind of like idealistic like policy discussions, I don't think it's possible to actually like carry it out, because all you would be doing, like if we take the step by step like downstream effects of like enacting legislation like this, you'd have to empower agencies the disastrous is it the DEA that caused the Waco disaster, burning
Sounds right.
yeah, and then was it the FBI at Ruby Ridge, or who did that? Anyway, you're basically giving these people more money and power to basically create these like cultural moments that will just basically spark a new movement against the government, like honestly, and drive more people like
Do you
underground.
think that policy can do anything? Do you think that there's ever room for policy when it comes to trying to like do things in our society? Because I think that historically policy that has worked. Government action has worked. It worked here when it comes to automatic firearms. I don't think why we can't actually figure this out. I think that we can.
When they had the assault weapons ban from 1980 or whatever to now, what was the difference in murder rates between now and then?
I mean, the 90s had a global spike that worldwide that decreased, but countries that did that, it worked better for them than countries that didn't, from what I've seen.
Do you know what Finland did? Like, so one of the things that Finland used to have a problem with domestic violence and gun crime, like not mass shootings, but they also have a lot of guns. And what they decided to do was instead like kind of tackle like the root causes. They started to institute their like expanded social programs, including the baby boxes. I don't know if you've seen this, but like each family that's expecting a baby gets this like fairly like beautiful and like not exorbitant, but a gift to help them like care for the new family member. And they basically made sure, that people weren't in desperate circumstances and could afford to raise children in a way that would empower those children to grow into, like good members of society, right? So these are all like, I think if we're going to be doing like policy initiatives, how about like valuing life at the beginning, and like making sure that we're supporting those families, and that nobody has to turn to
But how about both things? I think we can do both things. I think it's just a recognition of the facts that the more guns,
I'd rather not empower some like government agents to come and take anything from me, including guns. Like, just no, I'd rather not.
My camera will turn right back on. This is like a stupid thing.
Don crashed. Happens. We've lost Don. He's
back.
He's not coming back.
I'm alive.
He's not coming back. He's not back.
And finally, because I brought her up in the last broadcast.
What would you want government government officials doing then? Like I can imagine like tons of things that I wouldn't want government officials doing, like dealing with immigration or dealing with air travel,
take all the money away from like FBI and like the military, the kind of like the military industrial complex that is currently like arming Ukraine and stuff like that. Like, have it actually be a protective, like sovereign force to actually protect the U.S. instead of imperialism. Take all the money out of that and start huge infrastructure projects. Like, your highways and shit are a complete mess. You have no social programs. You have no Medicare. You have nothing that's human. You just have like these massive state apparatuses that like just suck money like a black hole.
Okay, fine. We can look at where there is waste, but I think the blanket, I don't want government officials in charge of this, just screams to me of like bad government and ew and ick.
Yeah,
like,
stop empowering the government.
That's
stop
not
giving
an argument
them billions
of why not.
for Ukraine. Like, stop it. Just stop.
Now we're moving
stop giving
off
them
the point.
reasons.
Now we're doing. Let me go to K because B wasn't as comfortable for me.
You're gonna
You
have to
still on
explain
guns?
that to me. Your superior brain is
Oh
inaccessible.
my god, I'm sorry.
You're still on guns. Go for it.
No, I think we can move from guns unless we want to keep.
No, one last thing. Brenda Spencer, 16-year-old girl, first school shooter, in the 60s, I think, sometime.
God
So she was in the second story of her house. The school was across the street. The two people she killed were the principal and custodian. 8 children and a police officer were injured. And her quote when she was finally arrested by the police was, "I hate Mondays."
I mean, hey, I've wanted to kill my principal a few times, but I mean, she did it. Damn.
we literally protest my principal into crying because she was against gay people. So
I hate Mondays.
Good. She earned that one. She earned.
She decided that being called a faggot wasn't an insult, and the school shouldn't have done anything about it.
I don't like that word. I'm gay and I can't stand that. I just don't like that word.
I'm just bringing the veracity of what was happening. Yeah, I'm quoting it. Well, last thing that we're going to go over, really, really quick. I just want to go over it because I think it's important, is what's happening in Israel. I think, and this is like, I guess, my little spiel. Let me bring up a video about why there's protests. A quick little TikTok video, I think. Not TikTok, YouTube short version of it. But I thought it was informative enough to bring up. So I'll bring it in and we'll play it real quick. Then we'll talk about it.
The government has passed the first major law in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's controversial plan to overhaul the country's judicial system. And Netanyahu and his allies have proposed a series of laws that they say are needed to reduce the influence of the country's judges. They say that the judges are unelected and they wield too much power over government decision-making. Now, their opponents say that the judges play a critical role. They provide oversight and important counterweight to the government's decisions. For over 7 months, thousands of people have been taking to the streets and demonstrating against this plan. Perhaps most critically from the government's perspective, thousands of military reservists say that they're going to stop reporting for duty if these laws go into effect. The opposition movement has already taken to the streets.
We've been coming here from everywhere in the country, every kind of Israeli that there is.
We can expect to see even larger and more intense protests, so these divisions within Israeli society are just likely to deepen.
Getting rid of the judicial.
Yes. Well, they're not getting rid of the judicial, right? What they're doing is they're lowering the power of the judicial branch. So originally, the controversy was kind of around who can be put into the Supreme Court, the judicial court, the high court, whatever you want to call it. And one of the main disagreements were that the Supreme Court had a choice in who they allow to come into the court, where it's not just parliament rules or in the United States, the president, but in Israel, it's not like there's a president, there's a prime minister. So there's parliament and a prime minister, and then they choose the judges, and the judges kind of make a decision on whether they accept or not accept the judge into their whatever it is. And
so they are counterweights, right?
Yeah, they're counterweights. So what they recently removed as one of the first few laws is that the judge can't say, oh, this is not reasonable or not within the reasonable scope of the Constitution, because Israel doesn't have a constitution. It's all common law based off the Declaration of Independence. So within that framework, there is a large conversation and divide around this, where Bibi's coalition, the majority, is saying that the court needs to represent the majority. It's not democracy if it doesn't represent the majority. And the rest of the country, the opposition, is saying, well, we don't want tyranny of the majority, right? This is the criticism of democracy. There needs to be a checks and balances on the will of the majority, or else it can run rampant and repeat exactly what we ran away from in Nazi Germany, for example, where the majority did whatever they wanted with the minority.
Ibrid says Netanyahu wants to be a dictator.
He might.
I mean,
he might
kind of
be
is de facto. Yeah,
he might want to be a dictator.
Consolidating power. That makes sense.
He looks very unhappy all the time.
He does. He does. He looks really soft.
He
we
did.
lost Don again.
No, I'm here.
Come back.
I don't know why it's happening. There we go.
Post a little gif of what is it, Rose from Titanic? Go.
I mean, I think activist judges can also be a problem, though, right? There's overreach in every branch.
Yes, correct.
This, that potentially needs a counterweight. But this is. What do you think, Dandan? I'm sure you've examined this issue closely.
Well, before I go to that, I just want to remind everyone that on October 13th, there is a live event in Vancouver with Lawrence Krauss. So anyone who's watching, just live events are coming back. And no, I hope everyone can go there. I know some of us are going to be flying out there. I won't be flying out there. Maybe I will. I don't know. I'm already having so many trips. In November, I'm flying to Barcelona and I'm going to Portugal. I'm taking
You mispronounced
a cruise.
that. It's Barcelona.
Barcelona. I cannot, so yes, remember October 13th. What I think needs to happen, there was a movement in it because Israel doesn't have a constitution. And its main law is based around common law and like the Declaration of Independence. What you end up finding is a court that's most of its decisions are based in common law, which are much more interpretive than even a constitution, as interpretive as that can be. So I think what the parliament needs to do is it needs to write a constitution. We need to have a constitution. How are you expecting a Supreme Court to work and represent the will of the people when there's no actual constitution? So I think that's like a very important thing to recognize. I also think that Bibi and Netanyahu's entire game plan here is he's not trying to get fucked up, right? He has tons of corruption charges against him. He has tons of other issues against him. And right now, the majority that's holding the power in Israel would benefit from this weakening of the judicial branch. Right, this is just a power play, as all politics is. So I think we just have to see that as it is. It's again another power grab by the parliament to weaken the power of the Supreme Court, so they can do the things they want to do. So they can be tougher on Palestinians. They don't know that they can. That's really how I really see it. And I think it's an interesting trend because we're seeing the same thing we saw in like the early 1900s, where the creeping authoritarians throughout Europe and America, creeping fascism is crawling up all the way in every part of the world. When I had a conversation with Noam Chomsky, he brought this up exact thing, that for some reason fascism and ultranationalism seems to be a global phenomenon. And we have to pay attention that it's happening again. And we have to get creative with the solutions because we can't repeat the past. We don't want to repeat the past. And that's like my optimistic, I guess, take at the end of it. Let's not repeat the past.
Yeah, bravo. I can't disagree with any of that. Of course, a constitution would seem to kind of like fill that gap of maintaining the balance. I mean, and agree that there are certain things that really are looking like the 1920s right now.
Yes, correct.
Correct. Across the world. Yeah,
Spanish flu, right? 1918, we had a pandemic, and then after that,
we're repeating it literally.
Yeah, we're.
It's just the flapper girls. I don't know the flappers.
Run it again.
Can we have the fun parts of the 1920s too? The flappers and the dances. And
the
all
worst
that
thing is
stuff.
flapper girls are it's just called OnlyFans now.
Oh, we do have flapper girls. Oh man, somebody captioned that. We are repeating history literally. I think it's really concerning to see the way that the population is so quick to rally behind charismatic leaders like that. Like you see people like Trump. We've got what was the guy's name for the one from Brazil? The Brazilian sort of called the
Barcelona. No.
Yeah. It was
Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro. Yeah, there we go. So we have people rallying around these kind of charismatic leaders and things like that. He was the tropical Trump, and we're seeing that like around the world that's kind of just a trend that happens, and it's really concerning. It's really messed up. And then the chauvinistic behavior is also going to be one that becomes a bigger issue. And for a while, we've kind of been living in what do they call it? The Pax Americana, the piece that's America just had the biggest stick for the longest time, so nobody was really bucking up at each other. And now America's kind of waning, and it's like, well, now who's going to be the big dog on the streets? And we're thinking, I mean, what about the BRIC nations? Maybe one of the Asian tigers. China's been pushing their for a couple of years. They've been pushing their position and power in their sphere really strongly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then I mean, Putin's been trying to rebuild his entire sphere. So going back, his ideal would probably be to rebuild the Warsaw Pact. Get those satellite states back.
And another interesting thing is that if we look at when they had the little almost coup civil war thing, the Z, what's his name? Who remembers the guy's name that went against Putin? Wagner, right? That's what he was. It was Wagner.
Is he dead? I feel like he's dead.
No. He went. Now he's in Belarus.
No, he isn't anymore.
Oh, you talking about Lukashenko?
No,
Lukashenko is a Chechen guy. I think it's Wagner. I'm going to go with Wagner. If I'm
It's
wrong,
the
I'm
Wagner
wrong.
group. That's his. That's
Yeah,
his
the
company.
Wagner group. They painted the Z red, which is an homage to the Red Army invading the White Army, because Putin's tanks have a white Z on it. So history is repeating itself. I think.
I mean, come on. We know that Putin will be sidelined. The new leader of Russia will join NATO against China, and then there you have it.
And then back to the global struggle. I mean, I don't know. I don't like where things are going.
No.
But
I'm more worried about the Great Depression. If that's
doesn't always mean everything's going to be. Yeah, I'm worried about that too.
I'm not worried about an AI basilisk now. Thanks a lot. What the hell?
Yes. Leaving everyone with nightmares. If it doesn't give you existential dread, you didn't take the thought experiment.
Yeah, because the basilisk could exist anywhere in the future. You don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the basilisk is the reality that 100 years ago we had this thing going on, and now we're acting it into fruition.
Maybe we're in hell, and maybe we're in hell right now, and the basilisk is in fact torturing all of us, and that's why we're sitting here. We're torturing each other.
Nice.
You know that I think for
it's
anyone
all a
who's
simulation. We know that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, have you guys seen that? This is tangential as fuck, but there's this guy on TikTok. Everyone should look him. He believes he has found a way to see the fact we're in a simulation by getting super blasted on LSD and looking at lasers. I was
That's
like,
legit.
Of course. Well,
that sounds totally convincing.
Yeah, of course.
How's he know that a brain on hallucinogenics is accurately representing reality more so than not, right?
Why not?
Because it feels good, bro.
Yeah.
It feels great. It feels
Look,
good,
if you have a good trip, I'm just saying you think some crazy stuff. I had a real bad one. I had some crazy stuff. Not doing that one again.
I haven't just peeked through the hinges of tripping. I've kicked the door off you know what I mean? Like, so I'm with you.
Not I.
Always the psychology guys. It's always the ones who like psychology. They're always myself, I think I'm gonna take something and see what happens.
Psychonaut, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. It's the only way.
It's the only exploration some of us have access to, right? We won't necessarily go to space, but inner space.
Yeah, we may never get to go to space, but we can go into space.
Yeah.
Unless the aliens give you a little ride for some probing. I'm just saying, like I can go for some probing. Come get aliens. Come get.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Yeah.
At this point, if anyone wants to call in, please call in now. I'm gonna put the guest invite link one more time because we're at the end of our show, everyone. We've exhausted. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I really, really did like it. This is the Discord link. I posted the room link in the chat. You can jump in. I'm gonna post it again in the thing. And while that's happening, I guess any last word, guys? Anything you guys want to say? Want to talk about? Do you want to tell our audience?
Be wary of cognitive biases and logical fallacies.
And please
Masha
subscribe,
and I work for the Illuminati.
Yeah, Masha.
Hey, easy there.
I want to say that if our big democratic liberal tards overlords want to pay me and actually make me a part of the dip state, please do.
I'm game. I can
please
be bought.
keep ignoring me. That's all.
You can buy me, and I'm
don't
cheap.
ignore me. You can, no, you exactly. I'm a massive slut.
I can't be bought.
High five.
I'm easy.
You guys, we can't be friends.
I one time asked some of my friends, I was like, hey, because they're all religious and I'm not religious. So I was like, well, what's the going price of my soul, you think? Like, do you think what do you think the devil would give me? And they're like, what? No, my God, no. And I was like, I mean, I'm just saying, look, are we talking big houses? We talking yachts? I don't know. I mean, hey, look, I could go for some superpowers.
You have to be Andrew Tate. That's what's up.
God,
you can have all that money, but you have to be him. You have to embody him. You just step into his life.
I don't think he started out with a soul. I'm pretty sure he didn't sell it.
I think he sold it. I think he sold it to 50 different women to do their live cams or whatever it was.
We know he was grown in a secret government lab to disrupt real culture
of course.
And sideline masculinism into some depths of hell. Kind of what color is your Bugatti? Bullshit.
Well, everyone, this is, I think, the end of our show. As always, Masha, Tart, and Thomas, you guys are the best. And I think we had a fantastic show.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I would have loved to hear John Parker, but he'll be back. He'll be back.
We miss you, John.
He was too much of a pussy.
He pussied out. He didn't love us.
Yeah.
Oh, and thank you, John Boy, for calling in. I was really excited to see somebody
John Boy.
hop in my boat with me and be like, yeah, aliens.
Yeah, we're gonna have an after show. I'll be a little late to it because I'm gonna go hit some bags. The people who know what that means know what that means. People who don't know what that means don't
It
know what
sounds
that
like you're
means.
doing something illegal, but I don't think I don't think I'm going in the
Not
right
in New
direction
York.
there.
Not in New York. Maybe not. Yeah. So I think that's it, right? Yeah.
Let's
Peace
shut
out,
her down.
everyone.
Peace
Love you
out.
all.
Thanks, guys. Great to be around.
Stay hard.
Live long and prosper. Close the show on that.
We need to be able to have conversations without feeling like we're going to say something that gets us thrown in jail because people happen to be offended.